I'm just delighted that you're here, and thank you for coming. So thank you.
Oh, wow. It is just wonderful to see you all here. I'm delighted to be here, and I want to thank Laura Straus and John Alexander for inviting me to show my work here, this exhibition, Familiars, and to thank all of you who came from far away. Many of you came from Pennsylvania, Connecticut, New Jersey, an hour and a half away, 2 hours away from upstate New York, from New York City. I appreciate that a great deal, your coming. And most of all, I want to thank my partner, Alan Baer, the one with the video camera. Actually would not be here today doing this if it weren't for Alan. So thank you so much for all you've done, Alan, so much. And I want to talk a little bit about the exhibition that you're seeing now and about my work in the background of my work. I have these notes, but I hardly need them really. The title of the exhibition is Familiars. And the beings in the paintings, the pastel and ink paintings that you see now, the animal beings are familiars. They're my familiars. They're also your familiars. They're the ones who are beneath the surface in nature. It has to do with the animals within us. They are emissaries. They're guides, and they have guided me throughout my life, working in this medium and having to do with the animal nature and the psyche. They want to come down. They want to engage you. They want you to be a part of their world. So when they're giving eye contact to you, they want you to know them. The familiars. So my main medium is paintings in pastel and ink on rag paper, but I also do sculpture in it's basically wax and clay, fired clay, and I also speak and sing in animal tongues, which I'll be doing for you later.
Yeah.
So just a little bit about my background and how it led to this work that you're seeing now. I was born in West Palm Beach, Florida, and I'm the daughter of a single mother. My mother raised me, and because of that, I was alone a lot. So I used to, but not lonely, just alone. I used to find abandoned gardens in the wonderful houses in West Palm Beach and Palm Beach, the stucco houses. I would find these abandoned gardens, and as a child I would go into these gardens, and I would create worlds. Well, it wasn't so much that I would create worlds, I would find these worlds, and these and I would commune with the animals, both domestic and wild, that used to come into these gardens. I feel that the animals in the world have a deep intelligence, and my work has a close relationship to deep ecology. So I'll talk more about that later if you want to talk with me about that. But I do want to tell you about a dream, to share a dream that I had in 1979, which was the beginning of all of the work you're seeing now, and really the beginning of all of the work that I have done. I dreamed that I was walking by a river, and I came upon a bird, and I picked the bird up, and I looked at the bird. I held it in my hands. I wanted to talk to the bird, but I didn't know how. And I looked down, and I saw that around the bird's neck was a tiny medallion. And then I saw that around my own neck was a tiny medallion. And I touched the two medallions together, and at that point the bird began to sing in a language that I understood. And at that point, I began to speak and sing in what I call animal tongues, which I will do for you at the end of this brief lecture talk. The work that you see comes from a place similar to dreams, but they're not dreams. They're not illustrations of dreams. What they are is they're coming from that place similar to dreams. They also involve myth, but they aren't an illustration of established myth that you may have read about. They aren't that. What they really are is they come from my bones and cells. They come from my body, and my body gives me that myth. And also, I just want to make a little aside in this talk to say that I think that the word myth has been misunderstood in our society now. In our culture, people say if something is untrue, it's a myth. But I have to tell you that the greatest truths come from myths, and the myth is everything. The myth is the whole form. So I work on the floor. The pieces, I put the paper on the floor, the rag paper. I sit in the middle of them, and I work that way. I rub the surface of the pastel and charcoal with my hands. And as I'm rubbing the surface, by the way, that's how I get my exercise, whenever it is. As I rub the surface, the beings start to emerge. So that is how these beings come about. So one thing I wanted to say is that I think the world is afraid of nature. I think that we don't understand nature, that we're so alienated from it. And these beings, they're emissaries, and they want us to come back to understand them. If not to understand them, to understand their mystery, to accept their mystery. So we are animals, but we have forgotten a lot about what that is, and our own instincts. And our instincts are so important. I did an early drawing in 1980 called A Cat Is Not a Machine. And I don't have that in this show. That's a very early piece. But it very much ties into how I feel. We're not machines. We rely on machines a lot now. All of us do. Computers and everything else, cars, everything else. But we are not machines. And so we have to be aware of that. One thing in my work has to do with phylogeny. Phylogeny is, if you look at this piece here, this is the garden of phylogeny. And in phylogeny, all that came before comes together to make what is now. That's a pretty simplified version of the scientific term, but it recreates all that came before. So that happens a lot in my work, also in pentimento. Pentimento is what's underneath the surface. So when I'm rubbing the surface, things will come out that are surprising to me, that I really didn't expect. Unexpected things happen as a result of these things. So I feel that we have a fear of the wild, and I don't fear the wild. I don't fear the wild within us, and these animals and the emissaries don't want you to fear the wild. So my work has a lot to do with the animal soul and the purity that is in the animal soul, but also the shadow. And I've learned a lot from the shadow. The shadow in the world, teaches us a great deal. And as you notice in the Garden of Phylogeny, if you see the shadow cat next to the golden cat, there's a shadow cat. That cat emerged as I was working. You see the dark cat here. That's a shadow cat. So my work has to do with the fusion of dark and light, knowledge and innocence, joy and woe. They go together. And one other thing I wanted to say is, ever since I was a child, I had a feeling that I used to call this and this. There was a big this that was bigger than big could be, a huge this. And then there was a tiny little this, so infinitesimal, tiny, tiny this. And those two things went together, and I called it this and this. So just briefly now on the specific pieces in the show. This is the Corridor series, part of about 70 in this series. And the corridor is the white border around these pieces. And in nature, a corridor is the corridor is where animals go to survive and thrive. So I call this work, they're having to do with both ecological and psychological corridors. So my work is both personal and universal. It's both autobiographical and having to do with much more universal things. So this is the Corridor series from 2009 to about 2011. And then these are part of a series of diptychs. If you look closely at these, you can see that they're made up of 2 parts. And this is White Cat with Foliage Fur. And this is Beauty Looking Back. And these are very recent. And then the horizontal pieces, also very recent from 2013. And that is Fandango, the blue one over there. And then this one is Icy. It's the one on the cover, and I mean on the announcements. And I've done many large ones in this series. One thing I want to say is that I kind of want to dedicate this show to Agent up there. Agent is the golden cat. He was our cat who passed away this past year, and he was one of my familiars, one of our familiars. And so this is dedicated to Agent. And then last but not least are the Tiny series. And in the Tiny series, I've done a Tiny series ever since I've started working. They're never a preliminary for a larger piece. They are what they are. You know, they are, in their tininess, they can be very large. So this is the Tiny series, these, and there was one right here. Oh, oops. So that is the Tiny series. What else do I want to say? I do want to say this. This is Blue Familiar, and Laura Strauss has created a drink called a martini called Blue Familiar. If you haven't tried it, it's pretty amazing. So what I would like to do now, before I end this talk, is speak and sing to you in animal tongues. I have to take my glasses off. That's about the only, I can do it anywhere, but I have to take my glasses. An toy kani lointi kan, ui man toy kan, ona kanti ona lindi kom, ui kan toy ki nam, ui kan toy lindi kando nam. Pitiki komantiki lanotiki kamo nili nara kando kamo, oi san kan ki kanolan, oi kan to kamo niki nanolan ti kan. I como ani cominan, o como iniamo iniam, o como iniamo iniam. I como ani cominan, o como iniamo iniam, o como iniamo iniam. Antokani oi saka oi takomi nani noni nan oi santo kamoni di kanola.
Thank you.